Oh, there you are at last. I thought that you flea bags were supposed to be first healers. I've been waiting for ages, darling. Oh well, no matter. Now you're awake, and we can finally begin. What are you doing? Darling, while I appreciate the spirit, I wouldn't waste your energy if I were you. You see these chains holding you there? They're quite lovely, you know. They have quite a beautiful shine to them. Would you like to take a guess at what these chains might be made of? That's right. Silver. Very good. Nasty stuff, really. I don't actually like it either. Also, they cost a fortune to be made. But luckily, I've got an alternative revenue stream for this particular assignment, so it doesn't bother me too much. Got to be safe, haven't we? With our lovely little pet here. You and I are going to have so much fun. That look in your eye tells me that you don't exactly believe me. Also, this does too. I have to admit, you are a bit more difficult to capture than I originally thought. Yes, got a nice lovely souvenir here from you. Rude. You know, generally, it's actually quite funny. Generally, we vampires heal very quickly, and we don't have to worry about obnoxious things like scars. But this has taken actually quite a while. I mean, you can see it's healed a bit, but not nearly as quickly as normal. It's rather interesting. Look at that, we're learning things already, aren't we? You and I are going to learn quite a lot about each other while you're here with me. I wouldn't bother pretending anymore, darling. I know what you are. And I'm sure that you know what I am too, don't you? Why don't we just say it? Just get it out in the open, alright? I know we both live lives of secrecy, for the most part, but here, in this little cottage, out in the middle of the woods, there's no need for that. It's just you and me for miles and miles and miles. So, let's just put it out on the table, shall we? My name is Veronica, and I'm a vampire. And you are a werewolf. Exactly. Now, I don't much care what your name is, really. It doesn't actually matter, darling. We've got a lot to get through today, so I would appreciate your cooperation. As you can tell from these chains, you're not going anywhere. I'm guessing you're also feeling a bit dizzy, perhaps? Maybe a bit woozy, a bit weak. Are you smelling something? You look as though you're using that mongrel nose of yours, picking up on a scent. Yes, there is something here that I'm sure that you can smell. It's a very particular plant, quite unusual. It's quite lovely, but actually very deadly to humans and to wolves alike. It goes by many different names, aconite being one of them, although that one's not used very often. It's also known as monk's hood, or most commonly, Wolfsbane. that's right. This is just the leaves and the roots, but I don't think that we need the whole plant for this. Does that bother you, dearest? Yes, I'm sure that it does. I'm sure that it does. It's good to see you, actually. See, the reason that I'm here, darling, is to learn a bit more about you. You see, you pesky little mongrels have been causing the Vampiric Council quite a lot of trouble as of lately. So they've hired me to learn what I can. And they were not particularly specific on the methods of my acquiring that knowledge. Which is why you're here. I figured we could try to follow a werewolf for a while and see what we could glean from that, but how much more effective would it be to just learn straight from the source? So, you and I, we're going to learn quite a lot about each other over the next little while. Well, I suppose you can continue to fight. I have to say, I do appreciate your spirit, but the more you resist, the longer this is going to take, and I can't really speak to how painful it's going to be. You see, vampires, we experience pain a bit differently than the lesser species, so I don't really have a good gauge, but I would guess that it's not going to be pleasant what we do. And the more that you fight, the worse it's going to be. And if you die too soon, then I'm just going to have to find me another werewolf. And we'll repeat the process all over again. I don't think you want that, do you, darling? No. It was easy enough to find your lovely little facility in southern Manhattan. Yes. O'Leary's, right? Is that what it's called? Right, O'Leary's. Quite a cute little dive. Although that's only half of the story, isn't it? It's one of those... what's the term? Speak quietly? Speakeasies. That's right. You've made yourself quite a lucrative business since this whole prohibition nonsense has come about, haven't you? Again, I do have to admire your spirit, your ambition. But it does rather make you a sitting duck, doesn't it? Because I always know where you're going to be in the evening. And I know where the rest of your little pack will be as well. We wouldn't want to have to bother them anymore, would we? I think losing you is probably enough. Excellent. See, we're getting along already, aren't we? So, darling, let me explain how this is going to go. You see, I have quite a lot of questions, quite a lot of wonders. There's a lot of rumours about you werewolves. Some of them we know to be true, some of them, honestly, we don't. So, I'm going to find out what's true and what's not. Exactly how quickly you heal. Exactly how strong you are. Exactly how much Wolfsbane it takes to debilitate you without actually killing you. And then how long it takes you to recover. All of these sorts of things are very, very important knowledge for us vampires. I'm sure that you can understand. We can't just go into a war with you all unknowing. Know thine enemy, right? So, this is probably going to be an extensive process. Because you see, like all good scientific experiments, it's going to take trial and error. And I can't just base all of my findings off of one test. I've got to test things multiple times. Make sure that the data is accurate. See, there's a reason that the Vampiric Council requested me for this job. Because I am, first and foremost, a scientist. A doctor of sorts. Quite fascinating. The world of medicine. The world of surgery. We're learning new things all the time about the human body. And of course the inhuman body. For those of us who care. So, this is going to be very educational for me. And for all vampire kind. But it is going to take some time. The more you cooperate, the less likely it is that I'm going to have to take someone else from your pack. So, personally, I would think that it's in your best interest to cooperate with me. Well, we'll see how long it lasts, but good to see a bit of that fight leaving your eyes. Just a bit. Anyway, shall we get started? I've got all sorts of wonderful things planned for us today. Okay. Let me pop on a pair of gloves, shall I? Quite a nice invention, these gloves. A bit cumbersome, I suppose, but it is wonderful to keep an operating room sterile more, isn't it? These were patented right here in New York, wasn't it? At least in this country, not too long ago. So, we'll make sure that we're doing this properly. We wouldn't want to contaminate our data, of course. Okay. Now, first up, darling, I've got a mixture here of Wolfsbane. Now this is a liquefied version of it, and it's actually been distilled. So there's really not all that much Wolfsbane in here. Rather an interesting colour, isn't it? I suppose that makes sense when you're mixing a lovely little purple flower with the green of the stalks and the leaves and all of that. We may also need to get into a few experiments about which part of the plant sort of affects you the most. There are different parts of the plant that are dangerous to humans. It'll be interesting to see if that coincides with what's dangerous to you, or if there are other parts. So now this, as you can tell, is just a liquid. Just in a little stopper bottle here, and we're going to start out just with testing how the scent of a substance like this works on you, alright? Hopefully this won't be all that intense, because that would make the rest of my experiments not as necessary, and that would not be very fun. But this would work quite well for security, for vampire families who may be a bit worried about an invasion. So, starting out, darling, I'm just going to place this right under your nose. And I want you to be honest with me about how it makes you feel. I mean, I'll probably be able to tell, but this is for science, so please be honest. There we are. Now, just hold this right under your nose. Right there. You can try to hold your breath if you want, darling, but eventually you will have to breathe. I suppose you could try breathing through your mouth, although then you'd still be sort of ingesting the fumes, and that's not supposed to be for a little while, you know. You're going to ruin the data already if you don't just take a deep breath. There. Fascinating. It started working very quickly, didn't it? Interesting. Big, tough wolf like yourself. Already feeling the effects. Such a cute little plant. Interesting. Always good to know when your enemy has such an obvious weakness. Well, of course, there are things that vampires are weak to as well. Not like I'm going to be telling you that. Not that it really matters, I suppose. You're my pet now, little doggy. I don't think that you're going to be leaving this place, if we're being perfectly honest. Down, Fido. You're fine. I'd like to get a good look at you. Don't worry, I won't get the flame too close to you, but I do just want to be able to take a good look into your eyes. See how this is affecting. Interesting. Look at the light for me, my dear, if you can. Can't help yourself, can you? So not only does it disorient you and weaken you, but it also seems to weaken your resolve a bit. Much less temperamental now, aren't we? Interesting. Interesting, that's very good to know. Hold on, I'm going to get another tool. Just a moment, dearest. Now, my darling, I'm just going to take this little tool right here. I'm just going to press it into your face, and I want to see how it affects you. Generally, you would feel this, but it wouldn't necessarily hurt. To see if you can still feel it and if it hurts at all. Alright? Just hold nice and still. Not that you really have a choice. Okay, it doesn't look like that causes any sort of pain yet. No. Feel free to confirm or deny. That's alright. I don't mind observing if you don't wish to speak to me. Interesting. Okay. The elasticity of the skin looks about the same. I wouldn't say that it makes that much of a difference. Just important, darling, to really get a sense for what this does to you. I should take your heart rate again. I took it while you were sleeping. That. I should see if this makes any difference. Don't I? Don't worry, I'll warm it up for you, darling. Here we are. It does seem a bit slower, even than when you were sleeping. It seems a bit dangerous, doesn't it? Interesting. Now, if you wouldn't mind, darling, would you like to take a few deep breaths for me? That's alright. Go ahead and just breathe normally now, then. Going to hold your breath, really. you have to breathe eventually, darling. I just wanted to make sure that you're going to be okay. As I said, I am first and foremost a doctor. I don't want anything too severe happening to my patient yet. And you do eventually have to breathe. Interesting. Suppose we'll have to wait and see how that goes as it wears off. Hopefully your heart rate rises from that, because if it dropped that much just from the aroma of the Wolfsbane, what's going to happen once we inject it into your system? Don't worry, darling, it's a very diluted solution for today. As I said, we really are just starting. This is something else that I'll be hoping to test with your help. This is what I'm hoping is an antidote to the effects of Wolfsbane on you. I suppose we'll see if that light comes back into your eyes. Just give that a good whiff, darling. An immediate response in the pupils. Excellent, excellent. That's very good, isn't it? Very good to see. Yes, you look quite angry again. This is good. This is good. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Alright. Listen to that heart rate once more, shall we? Let's see how this goes. Hopefully it's a bit more normal now. Hold nice and still, darling. That's more a rate that I would expect to hear. Okay. Good. Good. Well, good to know that that antidote works. Certainly going to speed up the process as we continue our testing today. What's in here? Do you really think that I would tell you that, darling? Not an idiot, you know. I wasn't born yesterday. In fact, I wasn't born in this millennium, actually. Anyway, shall we? What shall we try next? Perhaps another scent. I do have one that's a bit more concentrated. I'm actually a bit nervous to see how this one works on you, seeing as that other one was so very effective. But this one, it's more of the Wolfsbane, but there's also a few other ingredients in it as well. I won't bore you with the details. One, because I don't think you'd understand anyway. But two, because it just doesn't really matter to you. Alright. Feel free to try to hold your breath, I suppose, but eventually you are going to have to breathe, darling. Here we are. Just hold that right under your nose. Wow. Quite fast acting. Good to know. Good to know. It's actually very fast acting. Maybe even a bit too much. Right. Oh. Very slow. Very slow indeed. Interesting. Maybe that's enough of that one for today. Give another good whiff of this, darling. Hopefully that works as quickly as it did last time too. Not quite as quickly, is it? Interesting. Maybe we'll have to resort to this one. No, you do look like your pupils are returning to normal. You're breathing a bit more easy. Okay. That just took a little longer than it did last time. A bit concerning, but I suppose that's good to know. It is a stronger tincture, so the effects should be stronger. You know, darling, one of the things that is quite interesting about you werewolves is that we always know when you are at your strongest and when you're at your weakest. You poor little creatures are bound to the cycle of the moon, aren't you? So we know when you're going to turn and when you're going to feel a bit more lethargic. From my knowledge, again, this is something that I would love to confirm with you the longer that you're here, but to my knowledge, you are obviously the strongest when you're actually in your wolf form, but the few days leading up to the full moon is when your human form becomes the strongest as well. A bit more animalistic, a bit more intense, as far as I've heard. Can't wait to see that. And then, of course, around the new moon, when the moon is at its weakest, so are you. Now, if I were you, I would perhaps think about increasing security at O'Leary's on those days. And increasing security that isn't all just wells, if I were you. That's why it was not all that difficult to capture you. I mean, still harder than I thought. I would say even at your weakest, you're still stronger than the average human. See, that's also good to know. We're learning things already. Okay, I think that second smelling tincture has fully worn off. Do you mind if I test your hearing, love? I've heard that you werewolves have quite intense hearing. Yeah. Let's see. Where did that go? There we are. Do you know what this is? That's right, a tuning fork. Generally used for things like musical instruments. To make sure that your pianoforte is in tune. But it's also quite an effective test of hearing. So, perhaps we'll start this just as a base, shall we? Now I'm just going to hold this between your ears, and you tell me when you can't hear it anymore, alright? Will you do that for me, darling? Well, if you'd like, we could bring out that tincture again. You didn't seem to enjoy that all that much. This, at least, is not going to cause you any pain. But I suppose if you'd like, we could go back to that other one. I knew that you would see reason. Good. Alright, so I'm going to just just give this a little tap, and I want you to tell me when you can no longer hear the sound at all, okay? Interesting, interesting. Okay, now I'm going to hold it up just to one ear. Maybe move it a little closer and farther away. And I want you to tell me again when you can no longer hear it, okay? That is quite good hearing. I wonder if I got one that was a bit of a higher tone, if it would actually bother you. Maybe something we need to investigate as well. Alright, let's do the next ear for now though. This again is just really a base. I just wanted to know how things are affected as we move on with our testing, so it's good to have sort of a ground level, you understand? Okay, let's try this here, shall we? Again, tell me when you can't hear it anymore. Okay, good. Good, good, good. Do you think that it's stronger in one ear or the other? Yeah, I suppose that would be difficult to say because it does start to get weaker. Here, I'll start on the other way now. It does appear to be relatively even. Okay. Good to know. Good to know. Seeing as that is one of the advantages that you have to vampires. I mean, obviously our senses are heightened above those of humans, but our hearing and our sense of smell is not quite as strong as you werewolves, supposedly. Again, we're going to try to confirm that. The more of the rumours that I can confirm this precious time that we have together, the better. Alright, now we're going to move back to this tincture. Just the weaker one. Not to worry, not to worry. Now, we know that this affects you when you smell it. But darling, I'm also quite interested to see if this does anything to you. If it touches you. Now, it does do something to humans. And I would assume that it would also affect you. So, it's one of the reasons that you're so closely strapped down, so that we can test this out a bit. Now, would you prefer it on the back of your hand, or perhaps on the wrist? I mean, I suppose if you'd like scars, we could go on the face as well, but that seems a bit cruel, especially for our first time. I don't mind being a bit gentle our first time. I can just choose for you. Perhaps we will do the face. Back of the hand. That seems like a much less conspicuous spot. Probably less painful than the wrist as well, seeing as that is a rather sensitive area. I think we'll start with just one drop. I really don't want this to be too much for you. I do have bandages as well, so as I said, I am a doctor. going to take excellent care of my patient. Alright, here we are. No time like the present. Take a deep breath if you'd like, I suppose, and brace yourself. Oh, that's quite nasty, isn't it? Goodness. Interesting. No, that doesn't look very pleasant at all. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being, yes, it's sort of painful, 10 being the most excruciating pain you've ever had, what would you rate that, do you think? Are you being honest with me? Okay. Alright, no, that's fine. I believe you. Ugh, so that is quite nasty. Okay. Good to know. I mean, it makes sense. If just smelling it affected you as much as it did, then having it actually come into contact with your skin, quite nasty. Maybe we should try just a bit on the face too. No, darling, I won't do that. Not today, anyway. Interesting. Now, does that feel like it's affecting your mental state at all? Do you feel dizzy or disoriented or weakened or any of that sort of thing? Yeah, you don't look like it's affecting you quite as much. So it going into your system through scent affects your mind more. On the skin, it just causes more pain. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, well, that's good to know. As I said, this is a learning experience for us, so wonderful. I should probably bandage that up now, shouldn't I? I did say that I would bandage it up for you. Alright, just a moment, darling. Put it back somewhere over here. Here we are. There we are. Hold nice and still, darling. I'll just wrap up that hand for you a bit. There. The antidote. I suppose we could see how effective that is. But actually, darling, I'm a bit interested to see how this is going to affect you long term, so I think we'll refrain from the antidote for now. Actually, that's why I haven't bandaged up my own face. Personally, I'm just quite interested to see how long it takes to heal, or what it does. I hope it doesn't scar too deeply. What do you think? Is it very noticeable? Don't worry, I'm not that vain. There are quite a lot of vampires who are vain. I think vanity sort of goes with the territory. But I, as I have said, am first and foremost a scientist and a doctor. So, there. Does that bandaging, does that help? Does it feel a bit better? Good. I'm so glad to hear it. I wouldn't want you to be in too much excruciating pain. Not yet. So maybe for today we'll refrain from this one. This might be a bit more dangerous than we want to see on the skin, at least today. I am interested to see how quickly that heals, so we'll have to check it in a little while. Take the bandage off and see what it looks like. Yes, I think for now, though, we're going to move on. So I've got one other set of tests that I would like to do with you today, darling. And this one, I'm quite excited about. It's slightly less practical as far as the actual defending ourselves from you mangy mutts, but it is still, personally, very exciting. So, we've tested how the Wolfsbane affects when you inhale it, and we've tested how it affects your skin. But I'm very, very, very interested to see what happens if we inject it. Aren't you curious? That's alright. Not everyone has the mind for science like I do, I understand. I am very, very, very intrigued though. We'll start with just a very diluted substance first. You see, it's quite a bit lighter. It's just a very, very small percentage of this is the actual Wolfsbane itself. I do also have this one that we could try, but I think perhaps today we'll just start with this one, yes? Finally, seeing some actual fear in those eyes of yours. That's good to know. Good to know. Even the mighty wolf has a limit. I think I'm going to very much enjoy breaking that spirit of yours. Hopefully not today though, that would be quite boring. Bit of a letdown really. Do you know how long I've been looking forward to this? It's quite the journey from lovely London town all the way up here. But it was worth it. Now don't worry, we're not going to start with this entire dosage. Honestly, I don't really know what that would do to you. Definitely not all 8 cc's for today. Perhaps we'll start with just 2. How does that sound? I suppose we could start with 1. You're a feisty one, aren't you? I like the sarcasm. Shows me that I haven't broken your spirit yet, and that's actually quite fun for me. Alright, let's see. Well, we had that hand, so maybe we'll inject over here and see how it works, yes? Okay. Hold quite still for me, darling. I suppose you could try to fight, but I wouldn't want to miss the vein. I'm really not sure what that would do to you if it's just, you know, floating about. I think sometimes people think that the human body is just, you know, you've got your organs and your muscles and everything else is just floating in blood. It doesn't really work like that. I should know. So, it is very important that I don't hit something that I shouldn't hit, okay? Hold nice and still for me, darling. Just 2 cc's. For today, at least. There we are. Wow. Very fast acting. I suppose that makes sense. Now, would you describe this experience as more disorienting and dizzying, or more painful? Both? Good to know. Good to know. Are we losing you a bit, darling? Interesting. I hope the 2 cc's wasn't too much. That was a very diluted substance. Quite powerful, this Wolfsbane. Good to know. Well, darling, I hate to tell you, but you're really not looking your best right now. Perhaps you should get some rest. We'll keep playing later. Don't worry, my little pet. You won't miss anything. We'll have lots of time together. Lots of fun. I hope that you're excited. I certainly am. We're going to do great things together, you and I. for now. It does look like